Today I learned Muhammad Ali was stripped of his heavyweight title, had his passport revoked and faced a 5-year prison term for refusing to serve in the U.S. Armed Services at the height of the Vietnam War. "I ain't got no quarrel with those Viet Cong," he said. "They never called me NR."
Well, how did they expect him to get to Vietnam without a passport? Ali was 290 when he was stripped of his heavyweight title and forcibly sidelined for 3.5 years beginning in early 1967 for refusing to serve in the U.S. Armed Services. He faced a 5-year prison term and his passport was revoked, taking away his livelihood. The Supreme Court eventually reversed the conviction, but he endured scorn and lost millions at the peak of his abilities. Reminds me that story about the black American Olympian who stated that Hitler was the only world leader who acknowledged his accomplishments. To answer a couple of questions that people seem to be frequently asking. Yes, I am just learning about this today. Maybe because I am relatively young and not American. Or maybe because I was one of the rare few born without this knowledge. Also, I didn't censor the word initially, but the post didn't show up in the subreddit until I did. I think it was automatically filtered out. In this case, I think that it would have been appropriate to use it as he quoted it. I will upvote this every time I see it. He stood up for his political beliefs and suffered greatly for it. He never stopped or backed down. Truly the greatest.
Today I learned a woman named Glenda Blackwell brought a scratch-off lottery ticket to prove to her husband that buying lottery tickets was a waster of money and accidentally ended up winning $1 million.
Her husband then spent the $1 million on more lottery tickets, $415,503 after taxes, which she will use to buy a home and some land, help out her daughter, and put money away for college for her 2 granddaughters. Wow, I need to move to a cheaper part of the world, 'cause my list of things would be a lot shorter after bought a home. And #200B. She was still right though. Showed him odds, rounded to the nearest 0.0001, of winning $1 million or more dollars in the lottery. Buying a ticket hoping to win 0.0000. Buying a ticket hoping to prove someone wrong 0.0000. Not buying a ticket at all 0.0000.
Today I learned that since Uber was introduced in New York City in 2011, drinking-related car wrecks decreased by 25 to 35% in all boroughs.
Ed, 31, didn't have much experience with Uber or Lyft until one strange day in 2017. His name is not Ed. He wishes to remain anonymous. He does not look like an Ed. Now that's anonymity. Nice try, Ed. What I think is even more surprising is that, in the city that most of us associate with taxis, somehow this market need was not being fulfilled by the taxi industry. Why is that? Is it trust people thinking that taxi drivers were trying to screw them? Was it the social environment people don't like the taxi drivers? Did people perceive the Ubers as being cleaner than taxis? Was it the inconvenience of using the telephone to call for a taxi? Why were people not availing themselves of the existing system? Drunk people. In particular, Uber has eliminated the need for a rotating DD, which is just glorious progress. Taxis are ridiculously complicated by 2018 standards. Taxi. Search for taxi companies and find a phone number. Call a phone number. Are you kidding me? Figure out the address of where you're standing. Wait. Get in. Drive. Pay with cash or make the driver very upset. Get out. Uber. Open the app. Put in your destination. Wait. Get in. Drive. Get out. It's not just in NYC. I live in a DC suburb and one of my good friends is the #1 DUI police officer in the area. 2x as many as the next officer. Tons of awards. Won the county federal grants. Whole 9 yards. He constantly praises Uber and Lyft for cutting the amount of DUIs an incredible amount over the past few years.
Today I learned Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash did not allow the TV show Glee to use any of Guns N' Roses music despite many attempts from producers. He stated, "Glee's worse than Grease and Grease is bad enough."
So does that mean it was Slash who did allow them to use it in Step Brothers, one of my favorite scenes? Slash wrote music for Phineas and Ferb. I have always tried to keep the legend of Under Slash alive for another generation. As long as the children believe in him, there is no harm in pretending he's real, right? I tried watching Glee. I gave it a real shot. But I can pinpoint the exact moment they lost me. The kid in the wheelchair was on the football team. They were going to use him as a battering ram or something equally stupid. No, that's so idiotic it makes me angry. That's worse writing than anything on Arrow. And let's not forget the time they ripped off Jonathan Colton.
Today I learned, you were more likely to get a job if you had smallpox scars in the 18th century. The scars proved that you already had smallpox and could not pass it on to your employers.
These days that little telltale smallpox vaccination scar on your shoulder says you were born before the disease was eradicated. I knew those acne scars would finally come in handy. Looks like I don't need those resume builders, internships, or college degrees. I have chickenpox scars on my face. Does that get me a job? In 17th century Qing dynasty, 8-year-old Kangxi was named the next emperor over his brothers, with the sole reason being that he had survived smallpox. He ended up having one of the longest reigns in Chinese history. Edit. For context, he had 2 older and 4 younger brothers who were also alive at the time.
Today I learned about an orangutan named Ken who escaped from his enclosure at the San Diego Zoo multiple times in the 80s. His apparent goals were visiting other animals, throwing rocks at a despised orangutan rival, and taking photos with tourists.
As an adolescent, he would regularly unscrew the bolts of his cage and explore his nursery at night, returning in the morning and putting it back together before his keepers arrived. Everybody should read this article. Free Ken Allen. Despised orangutan rival. Love it. Ken Allen was the shit. I'm a local and a member of the zoo. For years there was a gigantic pane of safety glass that was shattered by one of Ken's antics for sale in the zoo gift shop. The price tag was a couple of grand. But someone bought it and turned it into a table. There is a small memorial to him at the orangutan exhibit. Every time I walk by his memorial there, it makes me smile. I want details on this rivalry. What did the other one do? And Ken Allen returned to a simple life of sitting in his pen and giving young children the finger.
Today I learned MRI of dogs' brains show that they see owners as family and prioritize the smell of humans over everything.
Among other surprising findings, the study revealed marked similarities in the way dog and human brains process emotionally laden vocal sounds. Researchers found that happy sounds in particular light up the auditory cortex in both species. This commonality speaks to the uniquely strong communication system underlying the dog-human bond. Dogs can actually tell if we are happy or sad just by our words. I leave the clothes I wore that day on the floor next to my bed because one of my dogs loves sleeping on them. If I left the pile too small, she'd try to sleep sitting up, so no part of her was touching the dog bed, only the clothes. I now make sure to spread them out to give her the biggest surface area. PFFT. If there's treats involved, my dogs would let me drown. She loves me to death, but I know where I stand. My little pup has the same reaction with cheese. Good. I see my dogs as family too, so at least we're on the same page in that regard.
Today I learned the second officer of the Titanic, who survived by swimming from the sinking ship to a capsized raft, later in life sailed his civilian craft to Dunkirk and helped evacuate over 130 men.
Some men are born to lead, some born to follow, and yet others to ferry people across open water. I wonder how many he tried to rescue. Charles. I'm Charles Lightoller. I'm here to rescue you. Quote, Dunkirk Soldier. I've heard that name before. Where do I know you? Charles. I was second in command of the Titanic. Dunkirk Soldier. Well, thanks for stopping. But we're good. I think I fancy a little swim anyways. He was portrayed by Mark Rylance as the father, Mr. Dawson, in Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk earlier this year. He confessed years after the sinking of Titanic that binoculars were indeed on board, in a lockbox for which no one seemed to have a key. However, some argue they would not have been able to see the iceberg in the dead of night even with the binoculars. I wonder how that happened. Freezing waters are quite hard to survive. This guy's life was so fascinating. He became a sailor at 13. And by the time he was 21 he had been almost a shipwreck twice and actually shipwrecked once. Then he quit, became a gold prospector, then a cowboy, then a hobo, then became a sailor again, then pranked the city of Sydney by essentially capturing a fort, before becoming the highest-ranking officer on the Titanic to survive, and then destroyed a U-boat during WW1 by ramming into it. Dunkirk must have barely felt like a disturbance to his retirement.